While his wife lay in a maternity hospital, anxiously awaiting the birth of their twins, her husband secretly filed for divorce, without a single word of explanation. And on the day of her discharge, as she stepped outside in tears, all alone, she froze in disbelief when she saw who came to meet her. Welcome to our channel. If you enjoy emotional and powerful stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and support us. Now let's begin this unforgettable tale. It was a warm, golden morning. Elena sat quietly by the window, sipping herbal tea as her fingers sketched delicate lines across a blank page. She was working on a children's book, her art creating a magical world where a tiny fairy with transparent wings danced across a flower field. Sunlight played in her light brown hair, which was loosely tied in a messy bun, illuminating her gentle, thoughtful face. The house was silent, peaceful, until the door creaked open. She turned and smiled. There stood her husband, Maxim, holding a massive bouquet of her favorite flowers, pink peonies. "Happy anniversary, my artist," he said with that charming smile she had fallen for years ago. "You remembered?" Elena asked, touched. "Of course. 5 years together, 3 of them married," he replied, wrapping his arms gently around her, mindful of her now visible baby bump. "You're the most precious thing in my life." The flowers soon filled the kitchen with their soft fragrance, blending with the aroma of fresh tea. It felt like a perfect morning, a perfect life, a loving husband, a beautiful home inherited from her grandfather, a fulfilling career, and soon, a baby. What more could she ask for? "Are you nervous?" Maxim asked, sipping his strong coffee. "A little," Elena admitted, her hand resting on her belly. "I just want everything to go well with the baby." "It will. Our child is going to be strong, beautiful, just like you," he smiled. But a shadow passed through her eyes. Behind her calm gaze was hidden anxiety. The pregnancy hadn't been easy. High blood pressure, swelling, constant fatigue. The doctor had warned her to rest more, but how could she rest when deadlines loomed and clients waited? "Did you finish those sketches for the Moscow publisher?" Maxim asked, as if reading her mind. "Almost. Just a few final touches left. I'll get it done before the due date." "Don't worry. I never worry about you," he said, kissing her forehead. "You're my superhero." Elena gazed at him and thought, back to their first meeting, an art exhibition. He had walked in with a friend and couldn't take his eyes off her. "Your illustrations are magical, but you're even more enchanting," he had said, smiling just the same way he did now. But lately, something had changed. He still looked perfect, but sometimes his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. In the ultrasound room, the machine hummed steadily. The air was cool, the atmosphere tense. Elena lay on the couch, gripping Maxim's hand tightly as the doctor examined her belly with sensor. "Let's see," muttered Dr. Natalia Viktorovna, a middle-aged woman with sharp, observant eyes behind her glasses. "Is something wrong?" Elena asked, panicking slightly. "Lie back, dear. It's all fine, and more than fine, actually. You're having twins." "Twins?" Elena echoed, stunned. "2 strong heartbeats, 2 little boys growing inside you," the doctor said with a warm smile. "Congratulations." Elena's heart raced. But then, she noticed something strange. Maxim's hand had suddenly turned cold and clammy. She turned her head, and their eyes met. His face was pale, shocked, almost scared. But then he forced a smile. "Twins, that's amazing, right?" He kissed her hand, but she heard something off in his voice. A hesitance, a crack. "Yes. Amazing," she whispered, still struggling to process the news. "2 sons. The doctor handed her a towel, but her voice turned serious. "You'll need to be extra cautious now. Twin pregnancies carry more risks. No stress, no strain, plenty of rest. But I have work deadlines," Elena began. "Your only job now is carrying these 2 little lives safely into the world," the doctor said firmly. "Everything else can wait." On the drive home, Elena was unusually quiet. Her thoughts spiraled. 2 babies, double the joy, and double the burden. 2 cribs, 2 names, 2 of everything. But something else tugged at her heart. The memory of Maxim's expression in the ultrasound room. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, eyes fixed on the road. "How are we supposed to prepare everything in time?" Lena asked honestly, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need a second crib, more clothes, more of everything, and we'll have to turn your office into the nursery." Maxim hit the brakes hard at a red light. Lena instinctively clutched her belly. "Sorry," he mumbled, eyes fixed on the road. His tone sounded distant, too distant. Of course, he nodded. "We'll clear the office. We'll do everything we need to." But something in his voice sent a chill down her spine. For the first time in their 3-year marriage, Lena felt like she was looking at a stranger. She glanced sideways at his profile. His perfectly sculpted nose, sharp jawline, trendy haircut. The picture-perfect manager. But then she remembered how annoyed he'd been yesterday when she asked him to take out the trash. Those long, mysterious phone calls on the balcony that always seemed to come in the evening. Something wasn't right. That evening, Lena was sitting under the soft glow of the lamp, flipping through a parenting book about raising twins, when the doorbell rang. She slowly got up. Her belly had grown so large it made walking an effort. "Veronica Arkadyevna, good evening," Lena greeted her mother-in-law, forcing a warm smile. "Hello, Lenochka," the woman replied, scanning her like a hawk. "You look tired. How are you feeling?" "Just a little exhausted," Lena admitted as she stepped aside to let her in. "It's hard carrying such a load." "Twins. No wonder," Veronica Arkadyevna replied briskly, placing a box of pastries on the kitchen table. "Where's Maxim?" "Still at work. Something about a big project." Yes, he mentioned that." The older woman nodded, though Lena knew for a fact he hadn't called his mother today. They sat at the kitchen table. But instead of warmth, an unsettling tension settled in the air. Veronica Arkadyevna's face was tighter than usual. "No sugarcoating this time." "Lena," she said, stirring her tea deliberately. "We need to have a serious talk." Lena stiffened. "Have you and Maxim really thought through what having twins will cost you?" The bluntness struck like a slap. "Excuse me? 2 babies at once? That's no small expense. Cribs, strollers, clothes, food, diapers, it adds up fast. And you won't be working for quite a while, right?" Lena gathered her strength. "We'll manage. I have some savings and Maxim's salary is good." "Maxim needs to focus on growing his career," Veronica said coldly. "With 2 newborns, there's no growth, just sleepless nights and endless bills." Lena blinked back tears. Those cursed hormones. "There are children," she whispered. "You may be excited. But Maxim?" Veronica arched a perfectly drawn brow. "I see what's really going on. He's not thrilled about having twins. He's just afraid to disappoint you." Lena clenched her fists under the table, nails digging into her palms. Could it be true? Was Maxim not happy? "I think you're mistaken," she said firmly. "Maxim has always wanted children. 1 child maybe," Veronica cut her off. "But 2, right now, it's too much. Especially with the promotion he's been offered." "What promotion?" The question slipped out before Lena could stop it. "He didn't tell you?" "Deputy department head. A huge step up. But only if he's fully committed, not distracted by bottle feedings and lullabies." Lena's stomach twisted with nausea. Veronica always knew how to hit where it hurt, but today she'd gone too far. "Excuse me." Lena stood up slowly. "The doctor said I need more rest." "Of course," her mother-in-law stood too, perfectly composed. "Just think about what I said, Lenochka. Sometimes facing the truth is better than pretending everything's fine." When the door finally shut behind her, Lena leaned against the wall, her hands over her face. She didn't want to believe any of it, but a dark seed of doubt had already been planted, and it was growing. Just as Elena slipped her phone into the pocket of her pajamas, it vibrated. A message from Maxim. "I'll be late. Urgent project." Don't wait up, just go to sleep. She sighed and headed to the bedroom. Under the covers, she picked up her phone again to set an alarm. But something else caught her eye. A message, one she hadn't seen before. She never checked her husband's texts. Never, but tonight something felt off. A cold wave of unease pushed her to tap the screen. Waiting for you, missed you, just a few words. But they hit her like a punch to the stomach. Who was this? Why was someone waiting for her husband? And why did she miss him? Her fingers trembling, Elena scrolled up. Photos. A woman with long legs, a trendy dress. Her face was hidden beneath a curtain of hair. Then, Maxim's reply. Stunning. A kiss emoji. Elena dropped the phone as if it had turned into a venomous snake. Her heart pounded wildly in her chest, echoing in her ears. No, this can't be happening, not now. Not when she was carrying their babies. Maybe it's work, she tried to convince herself. Some co-worker, just business. But a cruel whisper crept into her mind. What if your mother-in-law was right? What if Maxim wasn't ready for this? What if he's trying to run away? She lay awake, eyes wide in the dark, one hand resting protectively on her belly. The babies stirred inside her. She could feel their tiny kicks. Which one was stronger? Would they be close? Would their father be there to see their first steps? Or thought made her heart ache. Maxim wouldn't leave. He's not like that, right? Then it happened. A sudden, sharp pain gripped her lower abdomen. Elena gasped and looked at the clock. 3 a.m. Maxim's side of the bed was untouched. She sat, up slowly, fighting the dizziness. But the pain didn't fade, it grew, stabbing through her entire body. Terrified, she grabbed her phone and dialed. The ringtone rang. Once, twice. Then his sleepy voice. Yeah? Maxim. Something's wrong. It hurts. The babies. I think something's wrong. There was a pause. Tension. Then his voice. Again, now sharper. Where are you? At home, she whispered through the pain. Where else? Listen. I'm out of town. At a site. Call an ambulance. I'll get there as soon as I can. Out of town? Another wave of pain nearly made her collapse, and the sting of betrayal hit just as hard. You said you had a meeting. Elena, not now, he stammered. Call the ambulance, please. She hung up, shaking, barely able to stand. She called emergency services. They said they'd be there in 15 minutes. She unlocked the front door just in case she lost consciousness and collapsed onto the floor, the fear and pain closing in. She was alone. Completely alone, at the worst possible moment. With trembling fingers, she called one more number. Elisa. I'm sorry for calling so late, but I need help. Please. White walls. The sterile scent of medicine. Strange hands moving around. Her Elena floated in and out of awareness, the pain roaring through her in waves. Placental abruption, someone said urgently. We need to admit her immediately. Prepare for a possible emergency C-section. A masked face leaned over her. Elena, can you hear me? We're going to do everything we can to save the babies. But you'll need to stay with us. Maybe until delivery. My babies, she whispered. Just save them. We'll fight. The doctor nodded. Your husband is already here. Her husband. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Can he really handle this? Will he even try? Don't worry, the doctor said gently. Right now, it's just about you and the little ones. Everything else can wait. An injection. Darkness. The room in the maternity ward was small but filled with light. Outside, poplar trees swayed in the wind. Sunlight painted soft patterns on the wall. Elena lay quietly, an IV in her arm, staring at the ceiling. Everything felt distant. Elisa, her best friend since college, sat beside her, trying to break the heavy silence. So I told that guy, Elisa said loudly. If he doesn't stop those stupid jokes, I'll personally prescribe him a therapy. Plan he'll never forget. She laughed, too loud, too forced, trying to pull her friend back from the shadows. You should have seen his face. Now the whole clinic treats me like royalty. Elena barely heard her. The betrayal, the pain, the fear of what was coming. It all swirled inside her like a storm. But in the middle of it all, she was still holding on. For her babies. That's good, Lena murmured mechanically, eyes fixed on the sterile hospital ceiling. Lena? Alice leaned in closer, gently tucking a rebellious red curl back into her ponytail. What's going on? Where's Maxime? Why hasn't he come yet? I don't know. Lena finally turned her head toward her friend. He's not answering his phone. He's probably busy. Busy. Alice's voice rose, sharp with disbelief, then quickly dropped to a whisper. His wife is in the hospital and he's too busy? What could possibly be more important than this? Lena shrugged weakly. A strange numbness had taken hold of her. Ever since she regained consciousness in the hospital, headache, fear for her unborn children, and worst of all, the betrayal. Everything was a blurry, suffocating storm in her mind that she couldn't untangle. I'll go to your place, Alice said, her tone firm and decisive. I'll see what's going on with your dear husband and bring you your things. All right. I need a toothbrush, a comb, my phone charger, Lena recited in a lifeless tone. And on my desk, there's a ceramic owl, my grandmother's. Please bring it. I'll get everything. Alice gave her hand a reassuring squeeze. Hang in there, friend. I'll be back soon. As the door clicked shut behind Alice, Lena closed her eyes. Through her half-closed lids, she saw clouds drifting past the window and sunlight dancing gently across the pale hospital walls. Life outside was moving on. But her world was collapsing. Then the soft creak of the door. Lena opened her eyes, expecting a nurse. Instead, a tall man in a white coat stood at the doorway. Sorry, wrong room, he said, already turning to leave. But then he paused, looked at her more closely. His gaze sharpened. Wait a minute. Lena? Lena Igorevna? She squinted at the stranger. Something about his face seemed familiar. Kirill? She asked hesitantly. Kirill Solomon? The one and only. He smiled. What a surprise, Lena said, managing a faint smile. It's been, 10, 11 years? Since graduation. Just then, Lena's phone buzzed. A message. From Maxim. Sorry. Can't come. Important meeting. How are you? No. Warmth, no concern, just business. Lena flipped the phone over, screen down, and looked back at her former classmate. Now a doctor. And somehow fate had brought him here. To this hospital. Today. You're working here now? She asked. Just transferred. Kirill nodded. And you? His gaze dropped to her belly, expecting. Twins. She placed a hand over her stomach as one of the babies kicked gently. Boys? Congratulations, Kirill said warmly. That's wonderful news. What happened, though? Why are you here? Placental abruption, Lena replied softly. They said I'll have to stay until the end of the pregnancy. Risk of preterm labor. With twins, it happens, Kirill said, pulling up a chair. But you're in good hands here. We've got excellent specialists. And your husband, has he been by? Lena looked away. He's busy. Work. Kirill was silent for a moment. It was the kind of silence that knew there were things better left unspoken. I'll drop by tomorrow if you don't mind, he said eventually. Need anything? Books? Fruit? Thanks. My friend's bringing the essentials. But you're welcome to visit. After Kirill left, Lena turned the phone face up and reread Maxim's message. No, how do you feel? No, how are the babies? Just a cold sentence ending in, how are you? As if he were checking an item off a to-do list. Where was the Maxim? Who used to whisper to her belly at night? Who promised to be the best father in the world? Who kissed her stomach and spoke to the twins when he thought she was asleep? She rewound the last few months in her mind. When had things started to shift? Was it when they found out it was twins? Or was it when he got that promotion? One she only heard about from her mother-in-law. Or maybe it started when O entered. The picture. That mysterious Olena stared at her phone. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could she even say to a man who had abandoned her at the most fragile moment of her life? A man who might already have someone else. Before their children were even born, she typed slowly. We're okay. We need to talk when you're free. Send a silence. No reply, no call. Nothing. The ache in her chest, quiet until now, finally burst through. Hot tears streamed down her face as she wept for the man she had trusted, the dreams that had vanished, and the babies who would never know the father she once believed in. Lena sobbed uncontrollably, her whole body trembling as her face was buried in the cold hospital pillow. She cried for her crumbling marriage, for the children who might come into the world without a father, and for the dreams and hopes that now lay shattered. The sun still shone brightly outside the hospital window, but inside Lena's soul, darkness was closing in. Meanwhile, miles away, her best friend Elisa was stuck in morning traffic, tapping nervously on the steering wheel. As a seasoned psychologist, her instincts rarely failed her, and today they screamed that something was terribly wrong in Lena's family, something that made her stomach twist. At Lena's apartment door, Elisa rang the bell. Silence. She hesitated, then pulled out the spare key Lena had given her a year ago, just in case. She never imagined the case would come like this. Inside, the air smelled of dust and someone else's perfume. Elisa quickly grabbed a few of Lena's things and reached for the old porcelain owl, Lena's good luck charm, from the dressing table. Just then the front door slammed shut. I told you she wouldn't be back this soon, came a woman's unfamiliar voice. You've got at least 2 weeks, maybe more if we're lucky, said a man. It was Maxim, Lena's husband. Twins. Placental abruption, the woman added coldly. The doctor said she might be on bed rest until delivery. Well, that plays right into our hands. What about the papers? Maxim asked. Almost ready. The lawyer said he'll finish this week. Elisa froze in place. Papers? What papers? Divorce, real estate, custody? Doesn't it seem like someone's been here? The woman asked suspiciously. There's a bag on the couch. There was no time to run. Elisa straightened her shoulders and stepped into the living room. Good afternoon, Maxim, she said coolly. Aren't you going to introduce your colleague? Maxim turned pale. The woman beside him, a tall, perfectly styled blonde, smiled with thin lips. Olga Denisova, she said. And you must be Lena's friend? Elisa, she replied bluntly. Lena's best friend. The same Lena who's in the hospital right now, fighting for the lives of your children, Maxim. Back in the hospital, Lena stared out the window at a group of pigeons strutting along the ledge, unaware of the storm brewing inside her. For 3 days, she had replayed her last conversation with her husband again and again, each time more painful than the last. How could everything fall apart so fast? Yesterday, she still hoped for a message, a call, some sign that her world wasn't crashing down. Today, there was only a dull ache and fear. Fear of raising children alone. Fear of having nowhere to go. No one to lean on. Lena, hey, can I come in? A gentle voice broke the silence. It was Nurse Nina. The chief doctor stopped by while you were sleeping, she said with a warm smile. The boys are doing fine, all vitals stable. Thank you, Nina. Oh, and a doctor from neurology came looking for you too, Nina added playfully. Tall, handsome, asked how you slept. Kirill, Lena said automatically. We went to school together. Before she could say more, the door burst open. Elisa stood there, breathless, her face pale. Lena, we need to talk now. Nina left quietly, sensing the urgency. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. Worse, Elisa whispered, sitting on the edge of the hospital bed. Your husband, he's planning a divorce. Something inside Lena cracked. She had feared betrayal, maybe even an affair. But divorce? While she lay in a hospital bed, pregnant with his children? How do you know? She managed to ask. I went to your place to pick up a few things. He showed up. With her. That blonde woman. And they weren't discussing work. I heard them talking about documents, about how he has time while you're here. I couldn't take it. I confronted them. What did he say? He pretended everything was fine, introduced her as some colleague, Olga Denisova. I asked him directly about the papers. He lost it. Said it was none of my business. But when I told him I was coming here, he calmed down. Said he'd stop by to discuss your situation. Lena leaned back on her pillow. It was over. Her marriage. Her carefully built life. All of it gone. Elisa, give me the phone. Lena, maybe wait. Please, I need to hear it from him. With trembling hands, Lena dialed his number. Hello, Maxim's voice. Came through, cautious. It's me, Lena said. Is it true? Are you filing for divorce? Silence, then a heavy sigh. I was going to talk to you in person, he said with feigned regret. Just answer the question. Yes, Lena's voice shook with fury. I'm lying in a hospital bed, carrying your children, and you're filing for divorce behind my back? We'll talk when I come by. No, Lena said firmly. We talk now. She thought their love was forever, until he showed up with a lawyer. Why? Lena's voice trembled. No, tell me right now. What did I do to deserve this? We were planning a family, we were expecting a baby, and now that we have 2 children, you've decided it's too much? Maxim's tone was cold, distant. It's not about the kids, he muttered irritably. It's about us. You live in your own world and I live in mine. Lena's eyes widened. I'm pregnant. With twins. What own world? I've done nothing but prepare for our future, for our family. You see? Maxim snapped, his voice rising. You're not hearing me. It's always about the children, never about me. What about my career, my dreams? I'm not ready to trade everything for diapers and sleepless nights. Lena stood frozen, listening as her life shattered with every word he said. I'll be back tomorrow. With a lawyer. We'll settle the apartment, child support. Don't worry, I won't abandon the kids. You won't abandon them? She whispered. Maxim, I think you already have. She ended the call. Her hand dropped, and the phone slipped from her fingers, clattering to the hospital floor. The silence inside her was deafening. Lena, are you okay? Her friend Elisa asked gently. Lena managed a bitter smile. Of course. How could I not be? My husband is divorcing me while I'm in the hospital, trying to keep our babies alive. It's just wonderful. Elisa sighed. I could tell you the usual. You're strong, you'll get through this. But right now, only one thing matters. You cannot let this stress hurt the babies. Focus on them. Lena nodded slowly. For her boys, she had to stay strong. What about the documents? What can he do without me? I don't know, said Elisa. But you need a lawyer. I know someone in family law. I'll call right now. Do it. The sooner the better. When Elisa stepped out to make the call, Lena was left alone with her thoughts. Had there been signs? The way he frowned when she stopped wearing makeup. The annoyance in his eyes every time she mentioned how tired she was? Or did everything change when he learned she was carrying twins? A soft knock broke the silence. Come. It was Kirill. He stepped into the room holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. Daisies, cornflowers, delicate bellflowers. Hi, he said awkwardly, pausing when he saw her tear-streaked face. Sorry, this might be a bad time. No, she said quickly. Come in. He handed her the flowers, not the polished perfect roses Maxim used to buy, but simple, real, unpretentious. They're beautiful, she said softly. I just wanted to check on you. Nina told me the tests came back good. The babies are okay, but the rest of your world is kind of falling apart, huh? She gave a hollow laugh. My husband's filing for divorce, she said aloud for the first time. Strangely, saying it out loud made it feel real, but also a little lighter. Now? Kirill's voice was full of disbelief. While you're here? Lena's lips twisted into a bitter smile. Why not? I'm out of the apartment and it's free for him to start his new life. With his mistress. That's inhuman, Kirill said, clenching his fists. I agree. But that doesn't make it hurt any less. Outside the window, the day was fading, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. You know, Kirill said gently, back in school I always thought you were the strongest girl in class. She blinked. Why? Remember how you stood up to those older boys bullying Vitya Somov? Or how you were the only one who didn't turn your back on Masha Solntseva? You always fought for what was right. You weren't afraid to go against the crowd. Lena gave a faint smile. Those memories felt like a different lifetime. You're still that girl, he said with quiet conviction. You just forgot for a while. But she's still in there. I'm not the same anymore, she whispered. I lost myself trying to become the woman Maxime wanted. Then maybe it's time to remember who you really are, he said. That Lena never gave up. Their eyes met, and in that moment, surrounded by pain and uncertainty, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. There was more truth in Kirill's quiet support than there had ever been in 3 years of marriage. Suddenly, the door burst open. It was Elisa. Lena, the lawyer will be here tomorrow morning. Oh, hey, she said, noticing Kirill. Sorry to interrupt. No worries, Kirill said, rising. I've got a shift starting soon. Thanks for letting me check in. Thanks. For the flowers. And for everything, Lena said quietly. I'll stop by tomorrow. As he left, Elisa dropped into a chair and grinned. Okay, spill. Who's the gorgeous guy? And why does he look at you like you hung the moon? Stop it, Lena said. He's just an old classmate, a neurologist, that's all. Elisa smirked. Well, that neurologist might just be exactly what you need. Lena shook her head but couldn't stop the smile forming on her lips. What did the lawyer say? Elisa grew serious. You need to be ready for a tough conversation. But no matter what happens, you're not alone. I'm here. Your mom's here. And apparently. So is that doctor. You're impossible. When Elisa left, Lena sat quietly, staring at the wildflowers in the glass cup. Fragile things, yet they had pushed through cracks in the pavement to reach the sun. Maybe I can too, she thought. One life was falling apart. But maybe, just maybe, another was about to begin, one where she could finally be herself. The hospital clock ticked with sharp mechanical precision. Lena watched the second hand march forward. 15 minutes left. And then Maxime would walk, in with a lawyer, but this time she would be ready. Are you nervous? Elisa handed Elena a glass of water. Here, take a sip and it might help. Next to her sat Sergei Mikhailovich, Elisa's trusted friend and a seasoned attorney, a sharp-eyed, soft-spoken man in thin-framed glasses, quietly flipping through documents and jotting notes in a leather-bound notebook. Don't worry, Elena, he said, meeting her anxious gaze. In your condition, the court will absolutely take your side. A pregnant woman facing a potential miscarriage. No judge would rule against you. I'm still hoping Maxime comes to his senses, she whispered. Her voice was thin but sincere. Elisa and the lawyer exchanged glances. Hope, it seemed, was not a currency they were trading in today. Without warning, the door swung open. Maxime entered, calm, composed, confident. Trailing him was a polished man in an expensive suit, carrying a leather briefcase. Good afternoon. Maxime said coldly, eyeing everyone in the room. I didn't expect a group meeting, and I didn't expect to be discussing our divorce while still in a hospital bed, Elena replied, surprised at her own calmness. But life, as always, finds ways to surprise us. Maxime's lips tightened, but he said nothing. His lawyer stepped forward. Roman Viktorovich Samoylov, I'm Mr. Kovalev's legal representative, he said crisply, placing a thick folder on the bedside table. We've prepared a draft of the divorce agreement. It's quite fair. The apartment remains with the wife. Mr. Kovalev agrees to pay child support at a generous rate. One moment, Sergei Mikhailovich interrupted. My client is in no condition to review or sign anything today. Her doctors have ordered complete rest. Any stress could endanger the pregnancy. We understand the delicacy of the situation, Roman replied with a professional smile. But Mr. Kovalev wishes to resolve the matter efficiently. It's in both parties' best interest. Which party exactly? Elisa snapped. Elena, Who's hospitalized with a high-risk twin pregnancy? Or Maxim, who's in a rush to start his new life? The mask of polite indifference finally slipped from Maxim's face. Look, he said, turning to Elena. There's no point in dragging this out. You know this is over. I'm offering you good terms. The apartment, support payments, even extra help to get you on your feet. How generous, Elena said bitterly. And in return, you just want me to sign away my marriage. Right here, right now. No review, no discussion. Just so you can run back to… What was her name? Olga? Maxim flinched as if she'd slapped him. Leave her out of this, he hissed. She's not part of this conversation. She's not? Elena's voice trembled, not from fear, but fury. She was in our apartment while I was in a hospital bed. That makes her very much a part of it. We're straying off topic, Maxim's lawyer interjected. Let's return to the documents. There will be no signing today, Sergei Mikhailovich said firmly. We'll review your proposal after Ms. Kovaleva is discharged. That may be a month from now, or later. A month? Maxim snapped. Yes, the lawyer answered coolly. In her condition, she cannot legally consent to any binding decisions. And frankly, you haven't even provided a full inventory of joint property. And we have serious questions about the car purchased during the marriage, he added. Maxim's expression darkened. What questions? The car's in my name. Purchased with shared funds, which makes it marital property, Sergei said calmly. It will be subject to division. That's enough, Maxim snapped, slapping his hand on the table. I came here to make a fair offer, not to argue over a car. Exactly, Maxim, Elena said quietly but with piercing clarity. You came with a decision, not a discussion, like always. But I'm not that woman anymore, the one who just nods and agrees. What are you saying? He asked, bewildered. I'm saying I'm the mother of your children. I'm still your wife, and I won't sign a single page of that agreement until I've read every word, on my terms. A heavy silence fell over the room. Maxim stared at her, not with anger, not with pity, but with something else entirely, as if he was seeing her for the first time. Well then, Maxim finally said, his tone flat. It's clear this conversation isn't going anywhere. We'll leave the documents with your lawyer. We'll be in touch after you're discharged. He gave a brief nod to his attorney, who silently handed a folder to Sergei Mikhailovich. Take care, Maxim muttered without emotion, turning on his heel, and walking out without waiting for a reply. The door clicked shut. Lena sank into her pillows, heart pounding from the confrontation. But strangely, all she felt was a mix of emptiness and pride. For the first time in a long while, she hadn't backed down. You were incredible, whispered Elisa, gripping her hand tightly. You should have seen his face when you refused to sign. It was absolutely the right call, agreed the lawyer. I'll review their proposal and draft a proper counteroffer. Don't worry, we'll protect your interests. After he left, Elisa settled into the chair beside the bed. But really, how are you? She asked gently. Lena inhaled deeply. I don't know. It's strange. I feel like I'm watching myself from the outside. There lies a woman pregnant with twins, and her husband just left her for another woman. She paused. And yet, I don't feel anything. No pain. Nothing. That's your mind protecting you, Elisa explained. Sometimes the brain blocks the pain so we can survive. It'll come back eventually. But by then, you'll be stronger. Maybe she was right. Or maybe Lena was simply too exhausted to feel, but it didn't matter. What mattered now were the two lives growing inside her. Everything else could wait. That night, a strange sound jolted Lena from sleep. She blinked in the darkness and froze. Someone was standing near the window. Her breath caught. She sat up in fear. Who's there? Shh. It's me, came a familiar whisper. Kirill. Instantly her fear melted. Didn't mean to wake you, he said softly, stepping closer. I just wanted to check on you. Are you feeling any better? She sank back against the pillow. Today was rough. Maxime and the lawyers. I heard. Kirill nodded, perching on the edge of her bed. The nurses can't stop talking about how you kicked them out. A bit of an exaggeration. Lena smiled faintly. I just refused to sign the papers. Good, he said, gently taking her hand in his. When my ex and I split, she signed everything without reading, and regretted it deeply. You were married? Lena blinked. 3 years. Kirill shrugged. Didn't work out. I was always at the hospital. She was always on the runway. A neurosurgeon and a fashion model. Not exactly a match made in heaven. We just drifted apart. Sounds civilized, Lena murmured. Unlike me and Maxime. This feels like war. It won't be, Kirill said firmly. He's impulsive, but he's not stupid. He'll realize it's better to settle peacefully than burn money on a courtroom fight. She wanted to believe him. She needed to. But what comes after, she whispered. After the divorce, after the birth. How will I manage? 2 babies. Alone. You won't be alone. Kirill tightened his grip on her hand. You've got your mom, Elisa. And me, if you'll let me be there. Their eyes met in the soft shadows. He was so close she could smell his cologne, something woodsy, calming. Her heart raced. She looked away, cheeks flushing. Thank you, she said quietly. For everything. Always, he replied just as softly, releasing her hand. Now try to sleep. Big day tomorrow. Doctors, tests. When Kirill left, Lena stared at the ceiling, her thoughts racing. And then it hit her. Her old life was gone forever. The marriage she poured her soul into was now a set of legal documents. The man she once loved, now a stranger. The future she'd planned, vanished. But somehow, in that terrifying void, there was freedom. Freedom from illusions, from fake smiles, from living a life designed to please someone else. Maybe, for the first time in years, she could finally live for herself. She placed her hand gently on her belly. A faint kick. One of the babies stirred, reminding her that she wasn't alone. It's going to be okay, Lena whispered. Mommy's got this, I promise. Just as the first light of dawn crept through the window, her phone rang. An unknown number lit up the screen, and just like that, her world was about to shift again. Hello? Lena? A woman's voice, soft but laced with worry. It's Irina Ilinichna, your mother. I'm calling from someone else's phone. Mine died. Elisa told me, are you in the hospital? What happened? The lump in Lena's throat swelled instantly. Mom. That voice. So familiar. So safe. It always meant warmth, home, comfort. Mommy, she whispered, and the tears finally broke free. I'm coming, sweetheart. I'll be there in 3 hours. Hang on. When the call ended, Lena wiped her damp cheeks. She had spent the whole night holding it together, keeping calm in front of Maxime, the lawyers, the medical staff. But hearing her mother's voice shattered every wall she'd built. These weren't tears of panic anymore. They were cleansing, releasing, necessary. Outside the hospital window, a new day had begun. The tops of the trees shimmered gold under the morning sun. Patients were already walking through the park. Life was moving forward, even if hers felt like it was standing still. Then the door slammed open. A nurse, Nina, rushed in, breathless. Lena, now! We need you in the procedure room. The baby's heartbeats are dropping. Her vision blurred. No, not this. Not now. Stretcher! The nurse shouted into the hallway. Hands, so many hands, gently but urgently lifted Lena onto the arriving gurney. The corridor ceiling drifted past above her. Voices barked urgent medical commands, but they were just noise. All she could think was, please let them live. Please just let my baby survive. Bright lights, the antiseptic smell, the shrill beep of machines. It was like Lena had left her body and was watching it all from somewhere far away. Doctors in surgical masks, nurses moving swiftly, wires, monitors, panic. Mother's pulse stabilizing. Someone said, fetal vitals critical. Prep for possible. Emergency C-section, another voice commanded. Fear surged like ice water through her veins. No, not now. It's too early. They're only at 26 weeks. It's too soon. Lena, can you hear me? A familiar face hovered over her. Kirill. The doctor, a friend, a man she once trusted. Now his eyes, usually kind, were hard and focused. Try to stay calm. We're doing everything we can. My babies, she whispered with dry lips. We're fighting for them, he assured her, tightening his grip on her hand. But we need you calm. Panic makes everything worse. She tried to breathe. The oxygen mask made it difficult, but she could feel the panic slowly retreating. Then, Kirill, the attending physician called, voice tense. I need your input on the neurological readings. Kirill hesitated, reluctant, to let go of her hand, but he did. He walked to the monitor, exchanging hushed words with the team. Lena couldn't hear them, but the grave expressions on their faces told her everything. This was serious, very serious. Suddenly the door flew open again. Oh my God, Lena! Her mother, Irina Ilyinichna, rushed inside, ignoring the nurse's protests. What happened? I just got here and they told me. Mom. Relief washed over Lena like, warm light. She's here. Mom's here. Everything will be okay. I'm sorry, the nurse said firmly. You can't be in here. I've been a Russian literature teacher for 40 years, Irina said, her voice calm but unshakable. I know exactly where I need to be when my daughter's life is at risk. The nurse looked helplessly toward the doctors, but they were too absorbed in the monitors to intervene. Irina took Lena's hand and squeezed it tightly. Hold on, my love. You're strong, just like your grandfather. Remember what he always said? Kovalyovas don't give up. Lena managed a weak smile. That phrase. Her grandfather had said it during the darkest moments of his life, before heading to war, burying his wife, battling cancer. We don't give up. Suddenly, a voice rang out from across the room. We have a positive trend, the lead doctor exclaimed. Fetal heart rates are stabilizing. Kirill leaned closer to the monitor. His expression changed. Relief. He's right, they're stabilizing. A wave of exhaled breath filled the room. Tension lifted like a cloud finally breaking after a storm. I told you, Irina whispered, gently stroking her daughter's hair. Kovalyovas never give up, and neither will your boys. An hour later, Lena was back in her room. The worst had passed, but the doctors made it clear. Constant monitoring was now non-negotiable. The crisis had ended, but the war for her babies' lives wasn't over yet. Several monitors were now hooked up to Lena's bed, tracking every movement and heartbeat of her unborn children. The beeping echoed like a ticking clock in the tense silence. What was that? Lena asked, her voice trembling slightly as Kirill entered the room to check on her. Premature contractions, he replied, calmly but firmly. They're common under severe stress. That call with your husband didn't do you any favors. He's not my ex yet, Lena corrected automatically. Sorry, Kirill said, clearly uncomfortable. Either way, what you need right now is complete rest. No legal talk, no drama, no emotional upheaval. Only peace, calm, and positive thoughts. Irina Ilyinichna, who had just finished unpacking Lena's things, nodded in firm agreement. Exactly. And I'll make sure that not a single letter from that man crosses this threshold. Lena gave a faint smile at her mother's ironclad resolve. No surprise there. Irina Ilyinichna's former students, now grown adults, still spoke of her with a mix of awe and fear. Thank you for coming, Lena whispered. Where else would I be? Her mother sat on the edge of the bed. As soon as Alice called, I canceled all my meetings, rescheduled my classes. I'll be right here until you're better. Kirill, sensing the moment, quietly excused himself. Lena noticed the respectful glance he cast at her mother as he left. He's a good doctor, Irina Ilyinichna commented as the door closed behind him. And it seems he's not entirely indifferent to you. Mama, Lena sighed, shaking her head. Don't start. He's just a former classmate who happened to end up here. Happened? Irina Ilyinichna arched a brow. Do you really believe that? What are you implying? Kirill had job offers from 3 top hospitals in the city, her mother said calmly. I spoke to his mother at your graduation. Anna Petrovna said he had options, and he chose this hospital, where you just happened to be. Lena blinked. In surprise. That can't be true, she said at last. He didn't know I was here. Of course not, her mother replied patiently. But maybe he knew you were in the city, and maybe, just maybe, he hoped to run into you. She paused. But fate decided not to leave it to chance. It brought you together here. That's too romantic. Too much like a movie. Lena turned toward the window as if to escape the idea. Real life doesn't work like that. Her mother didn't argue. Maybe he still loves his ex. Or maybe he still loves you. Lena didn't answer. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. Yes, her mother's theory seemed ridiculous, but not entirely impossible. Kirill had been stopping by more often than a typical on-call doctor, and that late-night visit, those comforting words, she didn't have time to think more. The door opened and a nurse stepped in with a tray of medications. Time for your injection, she said cheerfully. And then lunch. We need to keep your strength up. Later that evening, while Irina Ilyinichna was meeting with the head physician, the door suddenly creaked open again, without a knock. Alice stood there, holding a large paper bag. Hey, bestie. She kissed Lena on the cheek. How are you? Holding up. I know everything, Kirill called me. I was terrified, Lena admitted, her voice cracking. For a moment, I thought I'd lose them. You won't, Alice said firmly as she began unpacking the bag. Your boys are fighters. Who else would they take after? Lena watched curiously as her friend laid out an assortment of small boxes and bottles on the table. What's all that? Aromatherapy, Alice said proudly. Lavender for calm, mandarin for mood. No more stress. From now on, only good vibes in this room. Then she pulled out a flat box. And this is gold. Lena raised a brow. What? Is it? Our high school photo album? Alice beamed. I found it while cleaning the balcony closet. Let's dive in and relive our glory days. As the lid came off, memories came rushing back like a flood. School celebrations, hiking trips, excursions, their class, so loud, so tight-knit, and, here's our doctor, Alice said, pointing to a photo. Look at how skinny he was. And those glasses. Lena leaned in. There was young Kirill, awkward, messy-haired, hiding behind thick lenses, a shy smile barely playing on his lips. So different from the confident man she saw now. Alice flipped another page. Look. Talent. Competition. You won first place with your drawings, remember? Lena stared at the photo. Herself as a thin, long-haired girl, clutching her diploma with a proud smile. That felt like another life, another version of her, one who believed in dreams. Used to dream about studying art, she said softly. Why didn't you apply? Lisa asked gently. Lena lowered her eyes. Mom was against it. She said being an artist wasn't a real job, that it wouldn't earn a living. And you listened to her, Elisa said, nodding slowly. I always listened, Lena whispered. To my mother, then to Maxim. I never made my own choices. She closed her sketchbook with a quiet finality. It's too late now. Elisa raised an eyebrow in disbelief. You're 32. Gauguin had his first exhibition at 43. Grandma Moses started painting in her 50s. It's never too late. I'm going to have twins, Lena objected. When would I find time to paint? Oh, of course, Elisa replied with mock seriousness. Because Frida Kahlo never painted while suffering, or Mary Cassatt didn't hold a child while sketching. She turned to Lena and placed both hands on her shoulders. Lena, stop making excuses. You've always dreamed of being an artist. That's your gift, what you were born to do. Lena was silent. Deep down, she knew her friend was right. Art had always been her passion, the one thing that made her feel whole. But life swept her away into a tide of responsibilities, routines, and expectations that weren't even hers. "You know what I did?" Elisa said with a mischievous smile. "I found your old drawings in the garage at your mom's place." "What?" Lena gasped. "I sent them to that gallery on Sadovaya, the one that showcases new artists." "You what?" Lena's eyes widened with panic. "Why would you do that? They're childish." "No, Lena, they're not," Elisa said firmly. "They're the work of a gifted teenager. And you know what the gallery curator said? That your sketches had more life in them than half the submissions from so-called professionals." Lena stared at her, stunned. "They want to meet you," Elisa continued, "after you're discharged, to discuss featuring your art in a young artists exhibition." A long silence fell between them. Lena didn't know whether to scream or cry. Her mind swirled. Her art? An exhibition, her old dream? Could it really not be too late? I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say thank you," Elisa said with a grin. "Or better yet, start drawing." She reached into her bag and pulled out a wrapped bundle, a brand new sketchbook and a set of professional pencils. "The best therapy." She winked. "Doctors said you need rest and positivity. What's more healing than doing what you love?" When Elisa left, Lena stared at the sketchbook for a long time. Then, as if afraid of scaring away something fragile, she opened it gently. A blank page, a fresh start. Why not, she thought, picking up the pencil, and drew her first line. 2 weeks later, Lena sat by the hospital window, sketching the park outside. Her hand moved confidently across the paper, capturing the curve of an ancient oak branch, the silhouette of a mother pushing a stroller, the sunlight dancing on the path. "You're still drawing?" came a warm voice. Her mother, Irina Ilyinichna, stepped in with a bag of fruit. "Not tired yet?" "On the contrary," Lena said, laying down her pencil with a soft smile. "It feels like I'm breathing again." Irina looked at her daughter with unexpected tenderness. "You've changed so much these past days," she said softly. "You look radiant. And your eyes, they sparkle. In a hospital?" Lena chuckled, rubbing her growing belly. "Sometimes healing doesn't come from the outside," Irina said, sitting across from her. "Sometimes it begins inside." Lena looked at her mother thoughtfully. And surprisingly, she was right. Something had loosened inside her, a spring that had held her tightly wound for years. The crisis with the babies, the fear, the pain. And then, the quiet realization that she had survived it, and now, she had a choice. A life beyond fear, beyond Maxim, beyond pleasing everyone but herself. "Have you thought about what you'll do after you're discharged?" her mother asked. "Not really," Lena sighed. "Maxim still hasn't shown up. I guess I could stay in our apartment until the divorce is finalized." "And if that's not an option?" Irina asked gently. "Then I'll come back to you," Lena smiled. "Like I did in high school." "You can always come home," her mother said, taking her hand. "But maybe it's time to think about something of your own. Your own space, your own future, a real career." Lena blinked in surprise. You always said art wasn't serious, that it wouldn't lead anywhere." "I was wrong," Irina said simply. "Life taught me that the greatest mistake is giving up your dream for the illusion of stability." She paused, then added quietly, "Just look at Maxim. When her husband left, she lost everything until a call changed her fate. When your father walked out on us, I was terrified of being alone," her mother confessed quietly. "So I spent my whole life chasing something stable, something safe. But in the end, true stability, it starts with you, Lena." Lena stared at her mother in silence. In her 32 years, this was perhaps the most honest conversation they'd ever had. "Don't repeat my mistakes," Irina Ilyinichna added gently. "Don't be afraid to walk your own path." A sudden ringtone cut the moment short. Lena looked down at her phone, an unknown number. "Hello? Good afternoon, Elena Igorevna," came a calm, warm male voice. My name is Andrei Viktorovich. I'm the curator at the Perspectiva Gallery. Your friend Elisa shared some of your work with me, and I... Lena shot a quick glance at her mother and stepped into the hallway. The call lasted 10 minutes, but when she returned, her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes sparkled with disbelief. "What is it?" Irina Ilyinichna asked, concerned. "I've been invited to exhibit my work." Lena was still breathless. "My old-school sketches, and they want me to bring something new, something from what I'm painting now." "Lena, that's incredible." Her mother hugged her tightly. "But I'm not sure I can do it," Lena admitted. "The exhibit is in a month, right after I'm discharged. I'll be in my final month of pregnancy, and I need to prepare at least 5 pieces." "But you paint for hours every day," her mother said gently. "You've already got a stack of sketches. Just choose the best ones. You're capable." Lena hesitated. It was true. In just 2 weeks, she had created more than she had in the last 2 years. Hospital landscapes, portraits of the nurses, glimpses of fellow patients in the park. And then, her special series, 2, dedicated to her unborn boys. She had drawn them as she imagined them, tiny, peaceful, sleeping in one crib, holding each other's hands. "You're right," she finally said. "I'll do it. What do I have to lose?" The next morning brought the professor's round. Professor Sokolov was known for his stern presence and razor-sharp honesty. A tall, composed man in his 60s, he peered down at her medical chart while the nurse took Lena's blood pressure. "Well," he finally said, "your results are stable. Fetal monitoring is normal, swelling has decreased. If this continues, we can plan for discharge in a week." Lena bit her lip to stop the joyful gasp rising in her throat. After 3 endless weeks in a hospital bed, the thought of going home, even to an empty apartment, felt like freedom. "Provided you remain on strict rest," the professor warned. "No physical exertion, no emotional stress, bed rest only." "Of course," Lena nodded quickly. "I understand. No stress." Professor Sokolov glanced toward the door, where a tall shadow loomed. "You have a visitor. Don't overdo it." As soon as the medical team left, he stepped in. Maxim. He looked nothing like the man who had walked out of her life, his face gaunt, dark circles beneath his eyes. "Hey," he said awkwardly. "Can I come in?" Lena sat up, instantly alert. She hadn't seen him since the cold meeting with the lawyers. She had no idea what he wanted. "You feeling better?" he asked, lingering near the door. "I've been checking in, calling the nurses." "I'm fine," she said coolly. "They're releasing me soon." An uncomfortable silence settled between them. Once inseparable, they now seemed like strangers who didn't know where to begin. "Listen," Maxim finally said. "I came to apologize for that conversation. For the lawyers, I wasn't thinking straight." Lena studied him carefully. Something was off, something had happened. "Olga left you," she guessed. Maxim flinched. "How did you—" "Woman's intuition," she said, her voice calm. "Or maybe just experience. You always look like this when you're the one left behind." He lowered his head. "She flew to Paris. Said she's not meant for family life. That kids. It's just too much." Lena didn't gloat. She didn't even smile. Instead, she felt a strange, quiet peace. No bitterness, no desire to say, "I told you so." Just a quiet sadness at how shallow the man she once loved had turned out to be. "And now you've come back to me?" she asked softly. I thought maybe we could try again." Even Maxim didn't sound convinced. "For the kids," Maxim said quietly. "We had some good times, didn't we?" Elena looked at him, and in that moment something inside her finally clicked. A month ago, she might have said yes. She might have clung to that idea, the illusion of family, of safety, of going back to how things once were. But now, it was good. She nodded. "But it's over." "I don't want to go back, Maxim." He looked lost. "But the children, they need their father. They need happy parents," she said softly. "And we won't be happy together, not after everything." "I've changed," Maxim insisted. I see now how wrong I was. I believe you. She gave a tired, faint smile. But I've changed, too. I'm not the same woman who waited for you while you disappeared into your own life. I won't live with a man who only remembers me when he has nowhere else to go. Silence settled between them. Outside, light rain tapped against the window. Cars hissed by on the wet pavement, breaking puddles apart. Is this final? He asked. Yes, Elena replied. Calm, certain. He gave a small nod, as if accepting the end. Well, I guess I'll go then. Wait. Elena's voice stopped him. We still need to talk about the divorce, and your role in the children's lives. I don't know if I can be a good father, Maxim confessed, almost ashamed. You'll have to learn, Elena said, her voice suddenly firm, steely. I won't keep you in a marriage, but I will not let you walk away from your children. Maxim stared at her, not with resentment, but awe. You've changed so much. I have, Elena replied. Thanks for noticing. He left quietly. And as the door closed, Elena stood at the window, watching the gray clouds drift by. For the first time in years, she felt at peace, like the decision she'd been putting off had finally settled into her bones. A strange, quiet certainty. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. Come in, she said, not turning around. Hi. The familiar voice made her smile before she even saw him. Kirill. He stood in the doorway, a little nervous, holding a small wrapped bundle in his hands. Am I interrupting? Never, Elena replied warmly. Come in. He stepped into the room, trying to hide his nerves. I heard. You're being discharged soon. It's the best news I've had in a while, she smiled. Well, apart from the gallery invitation. You said yes? Kirill's face lit up. That's amazing. I knew you were talented. Elena blushed. How? You've never seen my work. I have, he said softly. Back in school. I still have the program from the exhibit where you won first prize. I kept it until graduation. She looked at him surprised. Why didn't you ever say anything? I didn't want to seem weird, he shrugged. Anyway, I brought you something. He handed her the bundle. Elena unwrapped it and gasped. It was a book, a rare old collection of impressionist paintings she dreamed of owning back in high school. You remembered? She whispered. She couldn't believe it. After all these years? I remember everything about you. Kirill said simply. I always have. Their eyes met. And suddenly, Elena knew her mother was right. There are no coincidences. Kirill wasn't back in her life by chance. And now, as she finally started becoming herself again, maybe it was also time for real love. Thank you, she said quietly, clutching the book. For everything. Kirill smiled, and in his eyes, Elena saw a reflection of her own hope. Epilogue, 1.5 years later. Golden morning light filtered through the soft curtains, casting warm patterns on the wooden floor. Elena stood at an easel in her sunlit studio, a room she had built for herself with her own hands and heart. Several finished paintings stood lined along the wall, waiting for the next exhibit. Behind her, laughter. Tiny footsteps. She turned. Little Misha came stumbling down the hallway, giggling wildly, his eyes the exact summer sky blue as hers. Behind him came Kirill, holding Sasha, the quieter twin, in his arms. Caught the runaway. Kirill chuckled as he stepped into the studio. He decided it was time to visit Mama, and I think he was right. Elena knelt down, arms open. Come here, sunshine. Misha squealed with joy and launched himself into her arms. Sasha reached out too, and soon she was surrounded by both her boys, so different, so loved, so hers. Misha instantly reached for the paints, while Sasha studied the canvas on the easel with wide-eyed curiosity. Your new piece? Kirill asked, eyes flicking to the painting. Yes. For the autumn exhibition? Lena nodded, dabbing. Her brush. If my art director approves, of course. She ruffled Sasha's hair playfully. Even at his young age, he had an uncanny sense for color and composition. His soft coos of approval meant more to her than any critic's review. Judging by our young expert's expression, you've got a masterpiece, Kirill laughed. Time to get moving, he added, glancing at the clock. Your mom will be here in an hour, and these little tornadoes still need clean clothes. Lena smiled and stood. Today wasn't just any day. It was the anniversary of the day she met Kirill. Or rather, the day they collided in a hospital room, and everything changed. They had decided to celebrate quietly, with a family dinner in the new house they'd moved into just 2 months earlier. The home buzzed with cozy chaos. In the kitchen, Irina Ilinichna bustled alongside Alisa, who, as always, brought her signature mix of cheer and lightness. Kirill was outside, manning the grill, casting watchful glances toward the twins as they explored their new toy tent in the yard. Lena stood under the patio awning, soaking it all in. Once, she had laid in a hospital bed, clutching her belly, terrified of losing her babies. Back then, a moment like this had seemed impossibly far. Lost in thought, Alisa appeared at her side, offering a glass of fresh lemonade. Just thinking how much everything has changed, Lena replied, accepting the drink gratefully. Sometimes, feels like I'm living someone else's life, like it's too good to be mine. Oh, stop, Alisa snorted. You built this life with your own hands. You earned every bit of it. With a little help from my amazing best friend, Lena smiled. If you hadn't sent my art to that gallery behind my back, I just nudged you. Alisa waved her hand. Everything else was you. And Kirill, of course. He believed in you from the start. They both looked toward the yard where Kirill was spinning Misha in the air like a little airplane. Sasha watched solemnly, then raised his arms, demanding equal treatment. Loves them like his own, Lena said quietly. Sometimes I forget, biologically, they're not his. Biology means nothing, Alisa said with quiet conviction. What matters is who stays, who rocks them to sleep, who teaches them to hold a spoon, who shows up every single day. Lena nodded. Maxim showed up once a month with expensive toys, always, seeming unsure around the boys, like he was visiting strangers. But Kirill, he'd been there since the very beginning, since the first hours after the birth. Steady, calm, willing to learn. You know, Alisa said after a pause, whenever I see your paintings in the gallery, I think of one thing. What's that? Lena asked, curious. That your soul shines through them, especially the ones you paint here at home. She smiled warmly. Remember that triptych you made for the twins' first birthday? The one with Kirill and the boys? Lena blushed. That piece was special. 3 ordinary scenes. The first bath, a bedtime story, a walk in the park. But the love in them, raw, glowing, real, had left even the harshest critics speechless. Became a symbol of modern family and quiet joy in contemporary art. I'm glad I found my voice, Lena said softly. And my path. The evening was warm. They sat around a large table in the garden, under strings of soft lights. The children were already asleep inside, watched over by a kind neighbor's daughter. The adults enjoyed a rare moment of slow, meaningful conversation. To the past year and a half, Irina Ilinichna said, raising her glass, to everything that changed. And to what's coming next, Alisa added, casting a knowing glance at Kirill. He flushed slightly, looking at Lena, who gave a subtle nod. Actually, Kirill cleared his throat. We do have news. We've decided to get married. Lena's voice was calm, but her words sparked joy in the room. A delighted squeal burst from Alisa, while Irina Ilinichna's face lit up with joy. Finally, Alisa grinned. I thought you two would keep testing your feelings until retirement. Waisir, just wanted to be sure, Lena replied softly, glancing at Kirill. Especially me, after everything that's happened. And I'm proud of you for that, Irina Ilinichna said, gently squeezing her daughter's hand. Taking your time was the right choice. Then Kirill cleared his throat, a mix of nerves and happiness in his eyes. There's something else. Everyone turned toward him. I want to adopt the boys, officially. I want them to carry my last name. A stunned silence fell over the table. Irina was the first to speak, carefully. And what about Maxim? Has he agreed? Lena nodded. We spoke last week. He understands. He admitted he's not managing as a father, and he said Kirill would be a better dad to them. That's surprisingly mature of him, Elisa said, eyebrows raised. People change, Lena said with a slight shrug. I think he's done some serious soul-searching lately. They all lifted their glasses again, this time for the future, for a new family, for a new beginning, for life itself, which had taken so many turns, but somehow always moved forward. Later that night, after the guests had left and the laughter had faded, Lena and Kirill sat alone on the patio. The garden was wrapped in night's gentle chill. Crickets sang softly from the grass. Somewhere far off, a dog barked. What are you thinking about? Kirill asked, wrapping his arm around her shoulders. Lena leaned into him. About how strange fate is, she whispered. 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined being here. With you, with our boys, and being happy. Kirill kissed her temple. You know what's always amazed me about you? She turned slightly. What? Your ability to find light, even in the darkest moments. Remember those drawings. In the hospital, you were sketching suns and flowers while everything was falling apart. I was just clinging to hope, Lena said quietly. Sometimes that's all we have. Kirill gently turned her to face him. You had more than hope. You had courage, strength, talent, and love. Love for your children, for life. And eventually, he smiled. For me. Lena smiled back, eyes sparkling. I didn't realize it then. But yes, I did. And now? His voice was playfully unsure. Now, she said, locking her gaze. With his, I know for certain. And that knowledge, it was worth everything. They stood there, wrapped in each other's arms beneath the stars. Two souls who had finally found each other after a long and painful journey. The road behind them had been filled with hardship. The path ahead was uncertain, with all of life's joys and challenges waiting. But one thing Lena knew for sure, whatever came next, they would face it together, because true miracles aren't in perfect lives or smooth roads. They're in the why, ability to love and be loved, despite everything. And that was happiness. Dear listeners, did this story touch your heart? If you felt something special, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support inspires us to bring you new emotional and meaningful stories every day. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback means the world to us. Stay safe, cherish your loved ones, and above all, be happy.